of the world. Oh, my people, seek the truth, avoid the evil. Learn Yahweh's ways. Torah Life.
Hello everybody, it's Paul Neeson with Torah Life Ministries, and we are reading Torah portion number 52, which is 31 of Deuteronomy 31, 1 to 30. Now it's a short Torah portion because it's traditionally read with the Torah portion we read last week, and only in a leap year is it read separately. But I'm reading it separately to here because we're coming towards the end of the Torah portions, and then in a couple of days I'll do next week's Torah portion, which will be 53. But we're doing Torah portion 52, which is Deuteronomy 31, 1 to 30. And this week, we see Moses gathering all the people of Israel, and he says, he went and he spoke the following words to all of them. And he went on to tell them that he's 120 years old, and his time has come. Because, folks, Yahweh is the ultimate prophet, and he gives us the prophecies. And he told Moses, your time is up here, and it's time for you to gather everyone around and give them these instructions that I'm going to be giving you. So that's what Moses did because he was so obedient. Now, Moses told everyone, and he told them all that they are to go and they are to listen to these final words that I'm about to tell you. And he gave them a reason. He said the reason is so you and your children and your children's children will remember it, because he told them every 7 years you are to recite this song that I'm going to give you. Moses was on his deathbed. He knew he wasn't going to survive any more longer, but he gave them this song. But before he did that, as I was saying, Yahweh being such an amazing prophet, Yahweh said, and Moses knew that these people, they're not going to continue to listen to me, and I will leave them, and they will come back to me in the future. But for now, this is what their punishment is going to be. So Moses so far went and said, look, if you people aren't listening to me now, how much so when I'm gone? You're so stiff-necked. Well, I'm giving you a song so you remember for your children, your children's children, and every 7 years I want you to sing this song. And it wasn't just a song to dance and be joyful. It was a song of instruction. So the people remembered it, and they taught it to their children and their children's children. And that's what this Torah portion was about. It was about Moses talking about in his last days, his last time, what to do when they go into the promised land. But remember this song so they'll never forget. He pretty much sums up all the Torah in this song. Now that song is in next week's Torah portion. But before that, we even see here, it says that Yahweh said, if you stick with me and you follow my Torah and my guidelines, it says in Deuteronomy 31:5, he will defeat your enemies ahead of you. And if you do just as I ordered you to do, be strong, be bold, and don't be afraid, that he will never fail you and never abandon you. You see, folks, when you're faithful, you don't have anything to fear. When you have faith, you understand Yahweh's there and he's not going to leave you. And he said here, that's what the people have to do, and I will not abandon them. But it goes on later on to say in Deuteronomy 31:17 that my anger will flare up again because the people have prostituted themselves to foreign gods, and they have abandoned me, and because they have done so, I will abandon them. So we gave them the instruction and said, if you follow this and do not fear, I will not leave you, I will never abandon you. But if you go and follow other gods, I will abandon you. Because if you want to put confidence and trust in them versus me, who's going to save you? You know, there's many gods in this world, I used to say, but there's only one true God. Well, no, there's many gods in this world, but there's only one true creator. And he says, who's going to save you? What one of those gods are going to save you when you hit hard times? What one of those gods is going to go before you and destroy your enemies before you get there? None of them, because they're just a piece of metal or one piece of wood or something else. And if you honor them and you bow down to them, I will abandon you because you're not keeping my Torah and instructions and they're not in your heart. If you have no faith because you fear them, so the faith is gone and everything else, then I will abandon you. But only so you will see where and who the true God really is. And then later on, I will bring back your children because you have transgressed from their mistakes. And to do that, here's a song that Moses wrote that all the people will remember over and over again. And every 7 years, so your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren will remember and know the Torah. You know, it says in the Torah, it says, you know, take these words, bind them on your heart, and let your children know them and teach them to your children every single day. Well, this song is something that sums it all up. And it's just amazing. And it says it must be on your heart. So it goes on to say that because of the evil they have done by turning to other gods, I will turn my face away from that. That's in Deuteronomy 31:18. I will turn my face away from them. I will abandon them. But didn't it tell us he will never abandon them? It says he will not fail you or abandon you, as it says in Deuteronomy 31:6, because you've been strong, you were bold, and you were faithful. You weren't afraid. But if you're not strong, bold, faithful, obedient, you will be afraid, you'll be weak, and I will abandon you, because you got to learn your lesson. But I will come back to them. It says, and Moses knew it himself. Moses says, in Deuteronomy 31:27, for I know how rebellious and stiff-necked you have been. Even while I'm still alive today, you have rebelled against me. How much more will you be against me when I'm in my death? He knew. They knew. So this song meant everything. And you got to imagine, here's Moses. He gets the information that he's going to die. I mean, I'm not talking about if you're in an accident or something and you have no time, but if you have time, if you're going to die, live to a ripe old age, or at the bedside and all your grandkids come around the bedside, and you could tell them and give them one lesson, one last piece of advice, a couple of words you had to tell them, maybe one paragraph. And now remember, you've lived a long life. So what would those words be? What would you tell them? Well, Moses, it seemed like he was preparing all along, and he wrote this song for them that sums up the Torah. And he warns them every 7 years. Now, he wanted them to do it every day, but every 7 years to make sure they gather together the whole community so people can, the children can understand and acknowledge it. Because when they're 7 years old, when they're 1 year old, they might not understand it, but when they're 8 years old or 7 years old, they will get it. And they'll be reminded every 7 years, and their kids will be reminded, and so on. So you need to read this every 7 years to your children, to your family, to the whole community. And we'll get into that song next week, but folks, our time's coming out. Our time's coming to an end, just like Moses' time came to an end. And Yahweh prepared him to tell him, look, this is it. You're on the mountain. You're looking into the promised land. Take Joshua and bless him so he can go in there and lead the children in it. You're not going to go. Well, Yahweh didn't give Moses too much time. But Moses was prepared because Moses knew he had faith, he had trust, and he knew Yahweh had a plan. So Moses said, okay, I'll do what you said, Yahweh. He accepted it, and he wrote this song to prepare the children. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves and think about what's going to happen way down in the future, but we want to understand how important the Torah is and why Yahweh said, if these people stick with me, I will go ahead of them, I will bless them, and I will destroy their enemies ahead of them. But if they get away from me, I will abandon them. And only until their heart is right will I take them back. But I will take them back if their covenant with me says they will keep my Torah and they will accept Yeshua as their Messiah. Then I will take them back, and I will do as I promised. I will bless them, I will go ahead of them, and I will destroy their enemies. We all have the choice, folks. It's up to you. And, we're going to see what that song is in next week's Torah Parashah. But please read all the Torah portions. If you missed any of them, you can go back to the previous weeks and see them. They're on my website on TorahLife.tv. You can see all those Torah portions from the past. And we have a whole new cycle coming up in a couple of weeks. We're going to start all over again with the Torah portion starting in Genesis 1 and going through the 5 books of Moses. So everybody, until then, everybody, have a great Shabbat. And remember to check out in a couple of days next week's Torah portion, which is the song that we've been talking about that Moses left his descendants with. All right, everybody, shalom, shalom.
Come out of the world, oh my people, seek the truth, avoid the evil, learn Yahweh's ways.